Good evening. I am Daniel Hill with 13WMEZ, and I'm here to tell you about Joshua, the leader of the Hebrew people after the death of Moses. Now, according to the Hebrews, they were enslaved under an evil Pharaoh who held them captive and forced them to work for many years. They say that their God sent a man named Moses to save them from the Egyptians and deliver them to a promised land, as they called it. This was a land that was, according to them, flowing with milk and honey, and had plenty of resources. Now, Joshua really comes into the picture as the leader when Moses dies. Once he dies, Joshua steps in to lead Israel. According to the Hebrews records, Joshua calls for the people to obey their commandments, which their God had given them. He then sees a large city named Jericho, and he sends some spies in to see this city. Now, something miraculous happens, according to the people, along the way. When they begin to get closer to the city, they allegedly walk through a river on dry ground as it is parted for them. And Joshua encounters, as they say, an angel of the Lord, to which Joshua asks if the angel was fighting for them or for their enemies. The angel replies, neither, but it is fighting for the Lord. Now, the Hebrews state that God had waged a war against a people group called the Canaanites due to their moral corruption and sex and their child sacrifices. Their God had given Joshua and his people victory over Jericho as they marched around it for 7 days. On the seventh day, as they marched around 7 times, and screaming and blowing trumpets on the 7th march around the city, the walls apparently fell and Jericho was handed over to Joshua. Now, according to the records, they did not win every battle, as actually they faced a loss under Joshua, as it is recorded that a man named Achan stole some treasure from their fallen enemies. This had apparently angered their God. Once Joshua had handled this man, they began to win more victories. It is later recorded that the Hebrew people moved into the land, and Joshua begins to disperse the land out to the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, this was apparently important for them, as it was a fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham that his descendants would inherit the promised land. At the end of Joshua's life, he reminds the people of God's generosity to the people in their win over the Canaanites, and that they should remain faithful to God's law. He also states that if they are unfaithful, they will face the same judgment that the Canaanites received. Joshua was a faithful leader to their God of the Hebrew people, and ultimately led people to inherit their promised land. This has been Daniel Hill with 13WMAZ. Have a good night, everyone.